Welcome to Practical Tips for Pup Clips. I'm Chelsea, and today I'm going to be showing you the must-haves if you decide to have your own groom shop at home, which I highly recommend. It's a lot easier than you think. If I can do it, anyone can. So I'm going to try to show you only the things that you must have if you're deciding to groom from home. Use your own best judgment to decide which of these things might or might not be for you. But as far as it goes for me, I try to be very practical. I try to only get away with having to have what I need on hand. And of course, sometimes I do have things that I don't need as well, but today we're going to be talking about the things that you do need if you're going to start your own groom shop. There are some basic blades you're going to need to start out with. I have here the 3 blades that you'll need. Starting here, we have a 30 blade. 30 blade. This is going to be for cutting paw pads, trimming the insides of tipped ears, and then you can use your 30 blade under clip combs as well. You can use a 30 or a 10 under clip combs, and I do recommend having a 10 as well, because the 10 you can use under clip combs, and you can also use it for getting out mats. This is one of the safest blades that you can actually use. The teeth are really close together. And so because the teeth are so close together, it's not going to be easy for some skin or body part to get stuck in between them. That's how you get cuts, and that's what we want to avoid. The 10 is good for mats, maybe behind the ears, anything that's going to be really tight and sensitive that we don't want to scissor out. Then we're going to need a number 7 blade. I will say you don't have to have this. This is something that I have incorporated into my own grooming over time. When I first started out grooming in the corporate shop, they had us using the number 10 blade for sanitary areas, sensitive areas like that. But I've since learned that you can actually get a lot of irritation using a 10 blade in those areas. Think about razor burn on your bum. I don't think I'd care for that, so dogs don't either. And the longer the blade that you use, the less irritation you're going to have over time. Now I get it, we want to get that booty area nice and short, because who wants a poopy butt? And that hair seems to grow the fastest and causes people to need to come back sooner. The difference between a 7 and a 10 though is only 1/8 of an inch. So while it is a difference as far as not causing irritation, it's not that much of a difference that's going to be really noticeable as far as it growing back faster. I do only recommend the 7 blade, that is the Buttercut brand, for doing sanitary areas though. I've had an Andis 7 and it just felt dangerous. If some groomers might be hearing me say I use a 7 on sanitaries and cringing, because the teeth are a little bit wider apart than your 10 blade, so it can be easier to have cuts, and a lot of people do have cuts with 7s, especially when they're first starting out grooming, so it is a blade to be really cautious with. However, the Buttercut blade, I can't explain it. I don't know why, but it definitely does have a safer quality to it, and I don't know why, but it works. We have our clipper blades that we'll need, but of course we need clippers. These are the Andis 5 speeds that I use. They are a little bit pricier than some other clippers out there. If you're having your own groom shop, it's worth the investment. But if you're just going to be grooming your own dog, you could go for something a little bit cheaper. Maybe like an Andis 2 speed, 1 speed, something like that. But this is worth the investment. I've had these same clippers, oh gosh, I can't say for sure, but it could be about 10 years. I don't think I've had to buy 2 of these. Pretty sure this is my original set. I started with Andis 2 speeds and switched to these and never went back. They're so lightweight. I love them. I don't care that there's a cord. Some groomers absolutely hate having a cord. They would rather put up with charging their clippers to not have a cord. I am not that way. I'll drop my clippers. They will be gonzo. Plus, it's the same reason I don't use a cordless nail Dremel, because it seems like the more times you have to charge the battery, the less the battery actually works, and you have to charge it even more. So I don't know what it is about cordless things, but I'm not a fan. I prefer corded. It just seems to be much more reliable, because I mean, if you forget to charge it, you're done for. You can't even groom. So I mean, I definitely recommend corded clippers. Plus, if you're using the Clipper Vac, you're going to have this hose attachment too, And if you're already used to having a cord, then the hose isn't going to be a big deal. Now the Clipper Vac is not a must-have, but I will tell you a bunch of pros and cons about it. Hint, hint, there's a lot more pros than cons, and I think the investment's definitely worth it. I am a practical person, but I will say that the pros definitely outweigh the cons on the Clipper Vac list. We'll go over that here soon. But why I love the Andis 5 speeds is I love the different variation in speeds. I love the sound, how quiet it will get. That's really nice for puppies. So that's the level 1. So that's the difference in sound. It's a pretty big one. These are really lightweight. That's one thing I super duper appreciate about them. It's not as taxing on your hand. And really the cord doesn't bother me. I just use my elbow to keep it out of the way like that. So, no big deal. And I'm going to put these babies away so I don't drop them. That is how we cut our dogs with clippers, but we're also going to need to use scissors on top of that. So I do have my 6.5-inch Kenchies. These are Kenchi Loves. I don't really care about brand names, but I got these at a trade show and they had a special going. So it was like the cheapest pair of really nice brand scissors that I could get at the time. And I've stuck with them ever since. I think it is worth it to get a nice pair of shears. Curved or straight is totally your preference. I've used both for many, many years and had success with both kinds. I just am at the place now where I prefer curves. So I do also prefer 6.5 shears. I have never felt a need to have 8-inch long shears. Now my chunkers are a little bit longer. They are, I don't know if it says on here. Let's see, it's probably 7.5. But 8.5-inch shears, I have never found a need for those. I just prefer the shorter ones. I find them to be safer. This is going to be for, you know, everything you need after you're done clipping. You're going to trim up the face with them, trim up the feet, trim up the tail, and that is all you need for that. So here we go, the chunkers. I highly, highly recommend having a pair of chunkers, even though these are not any crazy expensive brand. Pretty sure I got them on Amazon for like 30 or 40 bucks. These totally replaced my thinning shears as soon as I found them, as soon as I heard about chunkers and saw someone using them on top of a poodle top knot. I was like, oh, I'm sold. So they work just like thinning shears, but with less snipping. So good for carpal tunnel problems. And then I do have a very cheap pair of chunkers. These were $10 that I bought off a fellow groomer who had bought them in a $40 set of 4 shears. So she charged me $10 to take these off her hands, and they're not super fancy or anything. All I use them for is chunking out mats or tangles. I would not use my nicer ones on that because it does dull them, and so these are a little bit dull. I don't use them for finishing touches because they're not going to give me that nice look that, you know, a sharper pair is going to. Really, I could get away with just one pair of scissors. You don't have to have the fancy stuff. Just get started. You'll learn what you need or what you want to try out as you go. And as you're working and saving money, you can always save up and buy things. But really all you need to get started is your clippers, your blades, and your scissors. Now for setting in lengths on cuts, you are going to want something. So I have various blades of all different levels. But what you really could just start out with for more practical purposes is just a clip comb set. Because all you need to start with this is a 10 or a 30. So you're already going to have these for your safety purposes for grooming. And either of those lengths will go under every single one of these clip combs. And it goes from 2 inches all the way down to the 10 length. I would say primarily in here is what I use. These lengths right here. And this is a 3/8. A 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4 of an inch. Then you've got like your 7/8 and 1 inch. The 1.25 and 1.5 I use sometimes. Usually those would be on top of a head or like a schnauzer pattern or something like that. So that is one really nice thing is about just buying a set is you've got all those different lengths built in. And when I first started out, we used almost entirely blades. So I'll show you here. I've got this blade box full of all these different lengths because when I started out in the corporate shop, it was pretty much you got a 4, 5, 7, 10, and that was it. So we started to branch out. We found out about blades like the 3 and the 3/4, and even this beast, this 1 inch, which I don't use, by the way. But we did use these a lot because people liked the even though it was, you know, 3/4 of an inch, isn't too much different than, you know, 1/2 inch. It's only a 1/4 inch difference. It can make a difference on some coats for sure, especially if you're not using the Clipper Vac, which we weren't at the corporate shop. So that made a big difference. So I had all these different lengths. But then once I went to the private shop, everybody just used these clip combs, and it really went down to only needing, blade-wise, just the bare minimum. You need your 10, your 30, your 7, and then your clip combs can go on any of those. And so practically speaking, you have to buy less, and that's why I'm recommending that just as the bare minimum. Obviously, you can always get more. You can always branch out. You can get wide blades and stuff like that, but for purposes of this video, we're going with just the bare essentials. All right, so that's everything. That's all the hair cutting that we will have to do. You're gonna have your groom loops, for which you could just buy like a pack of these. You don't want self-tightening. You want one that you can adjust to the tightness on. You don't want it to tighten on itself if the dog's pulling, because they will pull. And obviously you're gonna need a table. You're gonna need a stable place to put your dog on. It doesn't have to be an electric grooming table like this. They have pop-up tables that are relatively cheap. I think I got one as a gift that was like $100. Now that was quite a while ago, so don't quote me on that because inflation happened, which I'm still upset about. But I actually used my fold-up table before I had this one or this one. So the fold-up tables, don't knock them, they work just fine. You'll want a good table arm or something that you can tether your dog to. You want a sturdy place that your dog can stand. If it's wobbly or shaky, they're gonna be really nervous and they're gonna be trying to jump off the whole time. So make sure it's stable and make sure your arm's stable and you have a tether for the dog as well. Because when the dog feels that it can't go anywhere, it will be a lot more cooperative. But if they think they can get away, they will try and they will keep trying. I do keep this on hand. Cool lube, if you are using short blades or even clip combs, they can warm up over time, obviously build up friction, build up heat energy. So we do want to keep this on hand because we don't want to burn our dog. Now, if you're using the Clipper Vac, you really won't need this stuff. I bought this can like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's, you know, maybe somewhere around here. And I really use it more to clean my blades after I'm done shaving sanitaries than I do anything else, because I don't need it. As long as I've got my Clipper Vac on, it keeps the blades cool. So I really don't need this stuff. But if you're just starting out, you don't have that Clipper Vac, you will need a can of this more than likely. When you're brushing the dog, preparing the dog for a haircut all over, you will need certain types of brushes. Depending on the coat, I do recommend these brushes that have the pins on the end, but with the rubber over top so that you're not scraping and hurting the skin. I used to not like these brushes. I used to go for something more like this, where it was just metal and no safety pin on the side or on the end, and where it was no safety pin on the end, it's just metal. And now the reason why I don't go for that anymore is because I was scraping my skin and it hurts. I'm like, man, I think the dogs are going to be all right, because for the most part you're not scraping skin with something like this. But if you do, it's not going to feel great. I'm not saying that they're going to be bleeding, but they might. So you have to be really careful. Now when you're buying a slicker brush, this one's very old and worn out. It's losing teeth, as you can see here. I can't even remember the brand, but it's nice and solid feeling. So I need to replace it, and I'm going to have to find something, because last time I looked, it was no longer on Amazon, unfortunately. So I went for this other brush, and it's nowhere near as good. It's got this like cool thing it does. Woohoo! Woohoo! You can remove the hair easy. But look at it. The bristles are already bending up here, and it feels really cheap. It just feels cheap. Feels like a cheap piece of plastic. Swihawk. Is that Chinese? I don't know. Anyway, good slicker brush with some little coatings on the end. That's going to be all you need to break up tangles on most coats. If you're doing something like a golden retriever, then this brush is going to be a little bit more your speed. You can get something like this still perfectly fine on a golden retriever, and I would probably still use something like this on a golden retriever. I'm not grooming big dogs. I'm only grooming small dogs, mostly that need haircuts all over, and I really don't need this very much. For a big doodle, maybe for a golden tail, but this is a really good brand though. This is Miracle Coat, and it's like I don't know, 13 bucks on Amazon, something like that. Totally worth the money. While you're brushing, you're going to need a way to find tangles. This is going to be your radar detector for when you're brushing through a dog's coat. And you do need this. You want this fine side and the not so fine side, because this is going to help you find tiny little tangles that this misses. And this is your radar detector when you're all done slickering to see if you've missed anything. If you do find anything, you're going to stop, pull that slicker back out, brush it, and then go back to your comb and keep going all through the dog's coat. This needs to go through all of the dog's coat if you're giving them a haircut all over, because if this won't go through, then this isn't going to go through. So that's the reason for that. For dogs that just are getting baths that maybe are heavier shedders, we have these guys. This is good for huskies. You've seen me use it maybe on my bath dog Remy. He's a beagle mix, but he's like as thick as a corgi. So corgis, labs, this is great at pulling out the undercoat. The only thing is this is actually a blade, so you do have to be really careful using this. You can irritate the skin. Be cautious whenever you're using this on a dog. Don't use it over bony areas. It's mostly for, like, you know, down the back, booty cheeks, chest, just depending on what kind of dog you're using it on. It can be a really great tool, but it can be overused and it can cause irritation. And this is going to be your best friend on dogs like boxers, anything that has that kind of coat that's short and doesn't really have a lot of undercoat. Usually coats that you really can't get much out of. Even huskies too. I have a Shiba Inu that I use this. That would be for these ones. My border collie, I use this on. And by the way, the Furminator is really expensive. They have off brands of this. The Groomer is one that I know a lot of people love that I would probably get if I didn't have this. And it's going to do basically the same thing. Just get an off brand de-shedding bladed brush just like this. The only reason I have this brush is because it was going to be trash. I mean, look at it. You can see how there's a couple bristles on it that are just slightly bent. The corporate shop that I worked at was going to throw this in the trash. I hope I don't get sued for saying that I pulled something out of the trash that was supposed to be trash. But I couldn't stand to see that thrown away. Look at that. It works great. I've had it for like 10 years. Okay? So.
Nothing. Just curious what you're doing. Love you.
Just talking to myself. All right. So that's all the brushing stuff. And then this is hemostats. I do prefer to have these on hand. Not everyone has to have these, but I use it for putting bows in, and I also use it for getting ear hair out. Not every dog do I do ear hair on, but some dogs do definitely need it. And in the corporate world, they kind of ingrain into your brain, do it on every dog, but it can actually cause more harm than good on some dogs. So it's very case by case. And oftentimes I just use my fingers to get it out, which this powder helps you to do. It helps you get a grip. So ear powder, something else that I recommend when it comes to cleaning ears, just in case you have to pull something out. And this just gives you the grip that you need to. If you're interested in seeing how I use hemostats to put a bow in, I have a demonstration video on that called How to Do a Bow in Gems. You can go check that out. I've got these ear wipes. That's what they look like. That's what I use to clean the dog's ears out. I'll use one for both ears if the ears are clean, or two if I need to, or more if I need to if they're really yucky. But that does the trick. And aloe and eucalyptus, so seems to work good for us. For nails, I've got my Miller's Forge trimmers. I use these on literally every single animal that comes in here. I even use it on my own cats. I have cat nail trimmers and I don't use them because these work. I will eventually put up a video of trimming a dog's nails that the nail is literally curled around into the paw pad. I can get that with these. So there's pretty much nothing I can't do with these. Even tiny, tiny nails, big dog nails. These are the only ones I recommend. They're awesome. They will do the trick. If you are grinding nails, you want to get them smooth, you're going to need a nail Dremel. So that's what I use. This is a corded one that I prefer, obviously. It's kind of embarrassing, but one time I was trying to do a nail trim client's nails, and I only had a battery charge nail grinder on hand, and I had forgotten to plug the battery in the night before, and it was dead. So I was sitting there like making small talk, like trying to Dremel with like an old Dremel that I had grabbed out of my drawer, trying to make it work, and it just wasn't. Well, I was waiting for the other one to charge, and that was awkward. I was like, I am not letting that happen again. The batteries just seem to lose their charge over time, like no matter what you do. And so corded is my preferred way to go. I think I got this for like $40 at Home Depot a while ago, maybe like years ago now, And I was having to buy a new Dremel like every year when I was buying the battery powered one. So this is maybe twice the cost up front, but it was worth it in the long run, big time. I really like that it's got lots of different speeds. It goes pretty low, goes pretty high. I never have to turn it all the way up, so I usually keep it around a 3 or 4. On the end, I've actually got a diamond tip head that I got from my sharpening guy. I don't know where he gets them. They're like 15 bucks and he just gives me one. It lasts for a really long time. Seriously, like a year's worth out of this one head. And what I like about it is it doesn't send pieces of nail like chipping or flying everywhere. It helps you really get things smooth. So I really like it. Of course, quick stop. We keep quick stop on hand just in case we get a little too short on a nail. Better safe than sorry to have it. Even professional groomers who have been grooming a long time, quick nails. It just happens. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is, and the dogs usually don't care too much as long as you deal with it quickly. Worst case, if you can't get a hold of quick stop for whatever reason, you can use cornstarch or flour. Just press it right on that nail until it stops bleeding. So some other odds and ends. So if you're grooming alone, you are going to want to have some safety material. I do keep cones, and these are not all my cones. I just bought a set. The set's definitely worth it. It comes in all different sizes, and having the muzzle's worth it too, because they can still bite with these on sometimes if they get the angle right or if it doesn't fit their head properly. And then with the muzzle, they can slip out of this sometimes. So what you want to do is use both, because when this is on, they can't bite you. When this is on, they can't get the muzzle off. I also recommend having some kind of groomer helper. This is all I use. This is, I'm pretty sure, a loop that I got on Amazon. I don't know how much it was. It's been a long time, like 10 bucks, 15 bucks maybe. And I think the idea of it was that it would hold one side and then hold the butt up too, if need be. I don't use it for that. I just use one at a time, use it as a groomer helper. Way cheaper than, I don't know, what, 60 bucks they want for the groomer helper. And same, it's the same idea. It just keeps their head pointed one way. I mean, as long as they can back up forever, it's still gonna do the job. I keep these wipes on hand. Definitely my preferred wipes for any anal gland aftermath, or if you have, you know, a super nervous dog that ends up anal glanding for the dryer, the nails. This will take care of the smell. Now that I have an anal glanding dog of my own, unfortunately, I've learned firsthand in my own home that these do work good and last really well. So I don't know what it is about this brand. I haven't really tried a lot of other brands, but this one is definitely really good. I can definitely vouch for it because it's tried and true. If you're grooming in the winter time, definitely gonna want that space heater or something like that. Over here I've got my dryer. You're definitely gonna have to have a dryer. This is gonna be one of your biggest investments up front for grooming. You definitely need something like this. If you use a hair dryer on your dog, you're gonna be drying them out and really just destroying their coat and their skin. It's not going to straighten the hair like you want it to, and you're never going to be able to get them properly dried and properly brushed like you can with this baby, because it's designed to actually blow the coat straight. And so that just makes everything so much easier when it comes to grooming, brushing, getting that hair cut. And you need to make sure your dog's 100% dry, or else you're not getting it 100% brushed or groomed. You're going to need ear protection. Obviously it's very loud, so some kind of ear protection. I like these because they're Bluetooth. Work tunes. This is the fluff dryer end. If you get a dryer like this, it should come with something like this called a nozzle. This is what's going to make it a high velocity dryer. It forces the air through that hole, and it's going to mean that you can blow out a dog like a Sheltie and actually blow some hair out, and it will actually get dry sometime today. With this, you can do puppies and faces, booties, stuff like that, but you need both. These are happy hoodies. I do recommend these for the dryer as well. I use them on literally every dog except for Rummy because he won't put up with them. Highly recommend. They're cheap buy, practical, make it a lot easier for your dog to enjoy the dryer. And if not enjoy it, at least put up with it. So yes, these are the must-haves right here. This is it. So in my head, I could probably do some math. Like this is probably about 300, ear protection 20, 330, 750, 800. So if you are buying all of this stuff new, maybe $800 or so. If you include the Clipper Vac, $1,800. That's a lot to start out with. I think that's why it was a gradual thing for me. I don't know if I would have been able to do that, you know, from the start. I started grooming at the corporate shop and accumulating things slowly over time. I went to the private shop from there, continued accumulating things, and actually cut back on a lot of things I realized I didn't need. And once I found the Clipper Vac, there's no going back once you get used to the Clipper Vac. Yeah, it's an investment. Yeah, it's hard to get used to at first. But once you do, oh my gosh, everything is just so much better. Your grooms are faster. Okay, I'll go into the pros and cons of the Clipper Vac soon. So about $1,000 to $2,000, you can start your own business from home. That's if you have to buy everything up front. If you're already grooming in a private shop or even a corporate shop, chances are you already have just about everything you need. One of my clients that I started grooming here would bathe her own dog at home and bring me a freshly bathed dog. So all I would have to do was brush it out and do the haircut all over, and I just charged a little bit less. You can make it work. You can figure out a way to make it work for you. If I can do it, anyone can. All right, take 2. Recorded my whole video, but I only took a picture instead of recording the video. Is the problem with having to wait till the kids go to bed to do this, is my brain's also about done. All right, here's my Clipper Vac. Moment of truth, demystifying it. Ta-da! Get that little bit of hair out. This is where all the magic happens. Hair is captured and dropped into there. All you have to do is empty it out every so often. You can see up in there. See up in that bad boy. Ugh. So there's your filter. I almost certainly need to get a new one, or at least blow this one out. This is the same one that came with it, and you are supposed to replace parts every so often. As a low volume home groom shop, thankfully I can get away with a little bit less of that. I'm gonna put this back on, and I'm gonna go through my pros and cons list of having a Clipper Vac. So once that's back on, this baby will work. I'll show you how that works real quick. One thing you should know is not to use it on dirty hair. Cooler blades. If you do not buy a Clipper Vac, you will be making up for that price by buying lots and lots of cans of this. When you turn your clippers on, you can see hopefully there that blade's moving really fast. That's obviously going to generate friction and going to generate heat over time. But with the Clipper Vac on, you've got a cool breeze sucking past that blade. And it's going to keep your blade nice and cool while you're using it. Which actually, it's not good for your blades to be constantly spraying with this. It'll dry them out. It'll make them duller faster. It's a yucky chemical that I don't like for my skin, and it stinks. I mean, it smells clean, so it's not like stinky, but it smells like a cleaner, and it can get really strong really quick, especially for dogs. So it's really nice to not have to use this stuff. Less hair splinters. It's sucking up the dog's hair while you're working on the dog, and that means that you don't have a big pile of hair on the table, which means you don't have hair splinters falling into your hands and getting into the nooks and crannies of your fingers and your elbows and your ears and all the other places the hair splinters like to get. It's amazing that this has all but eliminated hair splinters for me. I mean, it's rare that I get one, and if I do, I'm like, what the heck? Smoother look all over. It gives you a smoother look on the dog all over, and it cuts down on the amount of time it takes to run that blade all over the body by a ton. Saves you so much time. When I first was grooming in the corporate shop, the all over on the body is what would take the longest. Switching over to that private shop where we had this for every single body, it turned into the fastest part of the groom. Once they're brushed out well, dry and bathed and all that stuff, it's super fast just to run that blade over them. Not only is it, giving you more time, but it's also making your groom look better. So quality, quantity of grooms you can do, great for all of that. It's also nice for speedy cleanup. As you saw, you can just quickly suck hair up. Any hair that you are scissoring that's not going into the vac, you can quickly just vacuum that up when you're all done. It's also safer for the dogs in sensitive areas. You're not having to dig to get into, nooks and crannies to pull things out. All you have to do is kind of just rest your clippers nearby, and the Clipper Vac pulls that hair into your clippers. So it's really nice for sanitary areas. For clean feet, you can just, rest the clipper blade and run it over the feet. You're not having to sit there and dig to get everything, because the Clipper Vac's pulling that hair up into your clippers, giving you major help and a lot more safety in those sensitive areas that can normally be prone to being irritated, or cut. It also helps your dog be more comfortable since you're not having to run into every little nook and cranny to get all those hairs out of, running down a dog's leg, like a doodle's leg, for instance, or a schnauzer's leg, where they're, kind of pulling away. You don't have to sit there and run your blade so hard because the Clipper Vac's pulling that hair up as you're going. So you can just kind of breeze it down the leg gently rather than having to, really put pressure to make sure you're getting everything. That's a lot of pros. Better for your blade, for your quality of your groom, and it's better for your safety of your groom. It's better for your dog to be more comfortable. So win, 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 win. The biggest con, obviously, is that it's expensive. It's about $1,000 for just this mini version. Okay, sorry, no, this is the tote. So this is one you can actually take places if you decide to do that. That's why it's called the tote. That's the size that this is. Now, I can pick it up, but it's bulky, so it's a little awkward. It's not super easy to move, so that's a con for sure. It's expensive, it's bulky, it's not super easy to move around, but if you need to, you can. And for me, it's not a con because I'm not traveling anywhere. I don't have to take it anywhere to groom. People come to me here, so I just get to leave it here. But if you were traveling somewhere, I can see how that would be something you might not want to do. My last con is that obviously there's a learning curve, learning how to use it. You might not like the hose hanging over. That might, especially if, like I said, if you prefer cordless clippers, you might not care for the hose. I will say it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it. There's going to be a learning curve with any new thing that you do. I remember when I first started at the private shop, I was wary of using this because for 7 years I had not groomed with one. But I noticed how much less hair there was, how nice the groomers' cuts were looking, and they did tell me that ultimately I would need to switch to using it so that all our grooms were looking uniform. So I did, and after a week or two trial period, it became second nature to me, and I never wanted to switch back again. So worth it. If you're a seasoned groomer and you've never tried this and you've been grooming for a long time without it, you should probably consider switching and trying it out because it's definitely worth it. If that's something you'd be interested in seeing, a video about kind of the differences between using one and not, let me know. I will try to get that made because it's really not that big a deal. It's definitely worth it, I'd say. Let me know if you have questions. Leave any questions or requests for content in the comments. And as always, may your grooming be blessed. Thanks for watching. This. Oh. I should have cleaned that. Oh, yeah. Where's my girl? Never thought I'd feel like this. Without the vac, you can see all that hair falling down. I have to sit here and really carve to get everything out. And believe it or not, because this blade is so short, it will heat up faster than any other blade. Hair. Oh, you're such a good girl. You're such a good girlie. She doesn't like this. Border collie. My border. My border baby. Oh, look at those nails. I'm gonna trim those. Dig in there and even get what I would normally have to scissor. I'm a lot more comfortable with this. And that is the Clipper Vac. Thanks, Lulu. Bye. Alright, so welcome to my groom shop. My name is Chelsea and this is Practical Tips for Pup Clips. Today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about how I groom from home and give you some tips on things you might need if you decide that you would like to groom from home. The reason why I started grooming from home was during COVID. I had one owner whose dog I groomed whose mother was elderly, and so she did not want to continue going to the shop even though there were times when we were still open and available for people. She just didn't want to take the risk, and so I offered to groom her dog here at home, knowing I was fully capable of bringing my clippers home and shaving a dog down here. I started out with just a little fold-up table. You can see it back in there. Some groomer friends got for me as a gift many years ago so that I could groom my own dogs from home. And so that's it. That's what I started out with. I dried my dogs on that table, groomed them on that table. It stinks because it wouldn't go up and down, so that was bad for my back for a little while. But we made it work, and slowly over time I accumulated more. I got this table, which is fully electric. Love it. Bought it secondhand off of a groomer who thought she would use it for her home business, but ended up not doing that. So I lucked out there. I guess I should say I am blessed. This table was given to me as a gift. It was my husband's friend's uncle's mother's table. And she used to use it all the time for her dogs at home in her own basement, and she passed, unfortunately, which is how I was blessed to be able to have it. And they're just thankful that it gets used every day. I'm super grateful to be able to fulfill that need for this table and for it to be able to fulfill that need for me. As you can see here, I've got some anti-fatigue mats. I didn't have those at first. I was just grooming on the hard concrete. Don't recommend that. I do recommend getting a nice little anti-fatigue mat. And this only requires, like you can maybe see here, this small space in my garage. So, I mean, it's less than half. I mean, I'll let you peek over there. It's a mess, but peeking over. It's a mess over there. That's how I kind of live my life. I'm a little bit of a mess, unfortunately. And, but yeah, I got this all nice and ready to go. I love my posters. This is actually my dogs right here. This is Luna as a baby. There's Fizzgig. You've seen him. And then Frank. They're going to be making appearances in videos at some point or other. And so, yeah, I just love the decor. This has a special story behind it. My bestie was going to make it into a bag for me, and that never happened because of the busyness of life. And I thought, I need something to cover up these ugly shelves so I have a nicer background for when I'm drying dogs. And I just started to look around the house for something. That was the first thing I came across, and look at that. It's been working just fine ever since. I did actually already have these banner hangers too, believe it or not. Thought we might be doing some ministry stuff with them. That didn't end up happening, so I've just had them sitting in boxes for like a decade, because this was before I ever groomed from home. So it just ended up working out really well for me to have something to hang these curtains from. These are just something I got on Amazon, and just help make it look a little bit nicer in here. Highly recommend having a smock, by the way. It's just going to keep your clothes from getting super hairy. Your washer will thank you. Love, love, love this one. Ladybird line. I love the design. It's waterproof in the front, but breathable in the back, so you're not dying and sweating. It cinches to your shape. It's got the pockets in the front with zippers at the bottom, so you can unzip and get all that hair out of there. So it's extremely nice, and I think I will just go ahead and just put it on, just show you how nice it is. Not that you don't get to see me wearing it all the time anyway. Here are some blades. I have all my sizes in here. This is my 30 blade. Gonna use that for paw pads, tipping ears. Gonna use a 10 blade here. When I worked at the corporate shop, it was policy that you would use a number 10 blade in the eye corners and on the booty or sanitary area. And so we had eye 10s and butt 10s. And 10 blade is a really important blade when you are grooming in general, I would say, but I definitely don't use it nearly as much as I used to when I worked at that shop. I'm really thankful for the policies that they instilled, because they did instill some safety. But if you've worked in a corporate environment, you know that there are a lot of policies that are just there because someone had a boo-boo and now everyone's forced to comply. So I actually don't recommend using a 10 blade on sanitary areas anymore. I really don't shave a lot of eye corners with my 10s either. So, but this would have been my butt 10. We would paint our initials on when I worked in the corporate shop, because sometimes we would share blades. If one was dull or something, we could ask, can I borrow your 10? And then this is a ceramic 10. So I actually do still use this if I'm going to use anything around the mouth or the eyes. I use that for that because ceramic won't rust in the same way that a metal blade will. This is my number 7 buttercut blade. I love Geeb blades, or you can see buttercut, but the brand is either buttercut or Geeb. Geeb is spelled G-E-I-B, and you can get all their blades on their website. But this blade is the 7 to end all 7s. If you're a groomer, you know that 7 blades can be dangerous. I had accidents with 7s back in the day, and I always used Andis 7s, just like you can see this is an Andis blade. I don't have a problem with Andis. I like Andis. My clippers are Andis. It's just that for some reason that 7 was dangerous. The wider the teeth are on a blade, the easier it is for something to slip in between them. And so because the 10 blades teeth are really close together, it's safe because nothing can really accidentally slip in between there. It's just my problem with it for like a sanitary area is that it's so short, it actually can cause a lot of irritation. Think about razor burn. Yeah, you don't want that feeling on your booty hole. So that's why I switched ultimately to doing my sanitaries in a 7 length. It doesn't cause that irritation, it just feels safer, but I only recommend this brand if you're going to use a 7 in a sensitive area, because something about this brand just is safer, and I don't know what it is, but that's just the case. So sorry I can't be more detailed and specific there, but that's just my opinion. Here is my number 5 blade. So I kind of just, I don't know what the organization here exactly is, but here's my 5. It's a 1/4 inch length. I don't use it a ton, but I do use it. Number 4, I got a wide blade. What is this? AffordableGroomingShears.com. I do like my wide blades. They are obviously handier on bigger dogs. I only groom small dogs now, pretty much, as a general rule. I have back issues and stuff like that, so I've pretty much just switched to only grooming small dogs. I do still have my shell tees, my back breakers. Here is the number 3 blade. Oh, and by the way, the 4 is about 3/8 of an inch, so just less than a half. So we're getting bigger, we're getting longer. The 30 blade is close to 1/100th of an inch. It's longer than that because a 40 blade is 1/100th of an inch. It's actually a surgical blade, so if you have a dog that gets its like little cuff shaved for them to put an IV in while they're getting surgery or something like that, that's the blade that they use. And you'll notice, if you've seen a lot of dogs shaved in that they are very irritated, or they get very irritated in that spot because that length is so short. And I was finding that I was irritating paw pads, you know, they'd get a little bit red, even bleed sometimes just because of how short it was. It is still safe to use, and lots of people still do choose to use 40s in paw pads or on tipped ears. But I personally have just found 30 to be way safer. It gets the job done just as well. So this again is a buttercut, and I love it. Highly recommend. So that's about the length on that. 10s are a 1/16th of an inch. And they are, like I said, pretty safe blades, safe for shaving mats, that sort of thing, that are really tight to the skin, like behind the ear. It's just that you could potentially get irritation anytime you go short. So if you can go longer, it's better to go longer when it comes to blades. The 7 is 1/8 of an inch. So it's still pretty short, but it's twice as long as a 10. And I think that's why I don't have as much irritation when I'm shaving sanitary areas now. The 5 is a 1/4 inch length. The 4 is a 3/8 length. The 3 is a 1/2 inch length. And then this is a blade most people probably don't have. It's a 3/4 blade, and it's honestly not something you need. I don't even hardly use my 3 blade anymore, but I do still use it sometimes. And I like having all the different lengths of blades just because you never know what's going to work exactly on a dog until you try it. But for the most part, I don't like to go shorter than a 4 or a 5 on a body, just because that can cause allergy spots or skin dryness or just general irritation, and so I try to avoid those lengths. Here's a funny thing. A 1-inch blade. Oh, I don't use it. I don't. It's a skit. I mean, look at this thing. It's a beast. It doesn't look the best. I've never really been super thrilled with how it looks. I just got it back when back when we worked in the shop, when I didn't have kids and other expenses, a house, that sort of stuff. I was able just to buy whatever I wanted. And so I bought that, but I don't really use it. We didn't also use clip combs a lot. When I worked at the corporate shop, people that go there just want to buzz down. They don't really care too much about their dog's appearance. Normally, if they're going to a corporate salon, they're more interested in just getting the hair off, getting it maintained, and they don't really care if it's 1 inch all over or if it's 3/8 all over. They don't care. They'd rather it be short in a lot of instances, just because that means they don't have to come back as often and don't have to spend as much money. If you have people like that, that's fine. I have a lot of clients that are like that, and I do have some videos on how to do some nice shortcuts that are really practical, that are going to keep people wanting to come back to you specifically because of how good you're able to get their dog practically maintained. So that's what's in the blade box. You're going to have a trash can, of course. It's going to be full of hair. These are the Oster brand clip combs. Oh, the colored blades. We used these at the private shop where I worked. That's why I have them to this day, is because they are amazing. They're great clip combs. Here's what I use underneath my 10 blade that I use under it. And that will, I'll just show you really quick how it goes. You're going to snap that blade on that baby. And your clip comb goes right over top. It's spring action here, so we're going to slide it down and into place. And on, make sure it's good sounding. And that's that. This is a 3/4 inch clip comb. So lavender is what we would call this one. So a lav all over means 3/4 inch all over. The blades I use the most are these right here. The thing to know about clip combs is, even if the clip comb says the same length as the blade, so like a 10 blade is 1/16 in clip comb and on the blade, but the clip comb do not take as short as what the blades are. And so this one, the dark blue clip comb says 3/8. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can't, because that means you won't be able to see the hair that's all over it too. So 3/8 would be, obviously, is the same length as our 4 blade, but the 4 blade is actually going to be shorter than the dark blue all over. I also use these ones on top of heads a lot. This one is 1 1/4 inch. This one's 1.5 inches. So our lime green, or our light green, whatever you want to call that, is 1.5 inches. So these ones are good for top of heads that you want to leave extra fluffy. You can do it with or without the vac. Anything you do with the vac is going to be shorter than without the vac. And then finally a 2-inch clip comb, which is more handy for stuff like maybe the top of a big doodle's head if you're hoping to cut down on trimming time. But really, I don't use this very much at all. Here are the wide blades that I use. So these are my most used clip combs, and because they are my most used, I got them in wide blades, in wide combs. So these ones go together, these ones are the same length, these ones are the same length, and these ones are the same length. What's the fuss about wide blades? Not really a lot. I would just say that they cut back on time some. So they're kind of nice for that, but you don't have to have them by any means. If you're going to use wide clip combs, you've got to have a wide blade underneath. I do use 30 wide blades underneath these clip combs, and I use a 10 blade under these clip combs. A lot of people say the 30 blade is better under a clip comb. I don't really notice a difference. So you can use either. We're almost through all the blades. And again, you don't have to have all these blades starting out. I do recommend getting the clip comb set because it is very handy for doing longer lengths and shorter ones too, without having to have all these different blades. That comes as a set, so it's really nice because all you need is a blade to go under, and you've got all these different lengths. So you could opt for that. Another option that we used to do when I worked at the corporate shop was to have extras. So I've got all these extra blades that I would buy. Here's my 7, the dreaded Anda 7 that I will never use on a sanitary area. And I've got a 4. So these are what I call my pre-shave blades. If I needed to pre-shave a dog, these are what I'm going to use so that I don't get my nice, sharpened, fresh blades dirty and gunked up. do recommend keeping a flea comb on hand. I've got my old shears. These are my old straights. I used these for many, many years. Just straight shears. These are called Heritage Straights, and they're 6.5 inches. Something super not practical that you really don't need, unless you're gonna die for fun, are these brushes. This is what I use for dyeing. I just have these little containers and the brushes with pretty hard bristles that go with it. Something you probably don't need, especially starting out. This drawer, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. Welcome to my mess. I'm not super organized here. What do you really actually need in this drawer? I do recommend having eye wash, eye rinse for dogs. If you get a hair in there or a clump of hair that you can't get out, use that. I do use the tacky glue for gems occasionally, and here's the gems that I use. So I've only ever had to buy one box so far. Here's an off-brand Zoom Groom that I used like one time and never again. Here is my card box. I keep all my clients listed with cards in here. We used to do this at the private shop. So date, the dog's name, owner's info, what I do, and then you can see it's kind of messy, but you can read here. There's lots of notes. So some dogs don't have very many notes. This one I do a trim, sometimes I do a cut, so there's lots of different notes on there. This one, though, she gets the same thing every time, so check, 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 easy peasy. I have done the computer system thing, and I've done the card system, and let me just tell you, I prefer the card system. I'm old school. I like just pen and paper, don't have to worry about if the computer system's down or anything like that. So I do highly recommend having just a card system. Cotton balls on hand because you never know when you might need them, or you might need to put some in a dog's ear. I use these for a dog that is nervous for noise but doesn't like the happy hoodie, or if they're going to get ear infections from going into the water, so anything like that. Or if I can't dry around their ears and I'm worried about the moisture, I can put them in there to help soften that moisture. This is a cool thing that I got that someone had bought at our private shop. So this is a hand dryer. So for dogs that are scared, it's not as much. It's a mixture of a brush and a dryer. So it's just not as scary. So for those dogs that don't like to dry around their face, you can get this to touch up with it at the end. It's very nice. And then I've got this nice spray bottle. It's a nice mister bottle. Woo! Oh, don't spray the camera. So that's what I like about it, is it comes out as a mist. You're not going to accidentally get like a straight squirt into your dog's coat. It comes out as a mist. And so I think it's worth the buy if you use a lot of detangler, which this is Quicker Slicker. You can buy it ready to use and then just pour it straight in there when you need it, or you can buy one that you have to dilute on your own. It lasts longer, obviously, but I mean, look at this bottle. I don't use this stuff very much. I think a lot of sprays and stuff that they try to sell to groomers is just stuff that they're trying to sell to groomers, and stuff you really don't need to have a really nice groom and successful business. I think cologne and like conditioning sprays are two of those very noisy things that make a big racket, but are things you don't really need very much. I keep these on hand, really there for getting down in a dog's ear if they've got like a lot of deep grooves with gunk in them. But really, I don't even ever use them for that. I don't really need them for that. The cotton or the wipes that I use are usually plenty. So actually what I use these for more than anything is just dabbing the glue when I'm doing gems. This is something that you should have in your medicine cabinet. I'm actually a big proponent of having colloidal silver in your medicine cabinet for all people, for all time, because it's very little known and it cures infections. So yeah, go buy some of this on Amazon right now. I've used this successfully for cat wound bites. I've used it for UTI. I've used it for eye infections, for me, my children, for dogs. We gargle it if we get sore throats. And I just keep a little bit on hand down here because I have seen some infected eyes that I've actually gone ahead and poured it in. And I've used it to clean like scrapes. If, you know, like if the dog came in with a scrape and I accidentally brushed the scab off, I'll clean it with this. So you can clean cuts with it. It's just amazing stuff. Keep it on hand, I'm telling you. Bow drawer. Yeah, I do still have cologne. This is pretty much full. I bought that when I first started. I've got this. I love the smell of this stuff, but I never use it. You can see how hairy it is because I never use it. I do have the Chris Christensen brush. Somebody got it for me as a gift. I would have not bought it on my own. I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be. I really don't. I mean, I guess it's a good brush, but whenever I would use it, it would have to be on a really long doodle, and I would have already had to have brushed it out with the Miracle Coat brush first. So this might not get as deep as this, but this is better at starting, and then this might be better at finishing, like getting all the way down to the skin. But because I don't really do a lot of dogs like that, I never use it. I never use it. This is a $60 brush. At least it was when it was bought for me. So don't worry about the fancy stuff. You don't need it. A lot of my stuff's been hand-me-downs, stuff that was going to get thrown away because it was getting replaced by something slightly newer and slightly better. Here are my 8.5-inch curves that I got when I first started. Oh, Heritage. Heritage, yeah, I bought a lot of Heritage stuff when I first started. Heritage straights, Heritage curves. I've had these since the very beginning and never used them because look at them, they're scary. I don't need that. I don't need to cut that much at a time. Got some waterless shampoo here for, you know, any dog you can't get a bath done on. It's better than having nothing. So I do recommend having that on hand just in case. I've got some treats up here for puppies, although the puppies I've had lately don't want treats, which is weird. Also, I'm telling you, since I've begun working from home, dogs do so much better here. So much better here than a shop. Even if it's a nice, sweet, comfy private shop, they still do better here. Got some vinegar spray here for cleanup, as much as necessary. My husband did all this, made it so nice, and then look, he did all these lights. Boom. Whoa. Yes? So you'll need other things too, of course, like a groom loop here, groom loop on my other table for drying, because that one would get wet, so I don't want to switch a wet groom loop over to a dry dog. As you can see here, just kind of slap this groom shop together. I've got Band-Aids down there. Band-Aids are important to have if you're like me and you accidentally cut yourself every now and then. But yeah, that little handy table my husband built for my Clipper Vac. And then this is just our old baby crib. You can still see Minion stickers and drawings on it. So, you know, it's not much, but it doesn't have to be. You just make it your own. And it's all going to come together really nicely. Because, I mean, if you think about it, it's worth it. I'm going to show you some of the stuff you might need for the bath. So here we go. First of all, I keep this bath mat on hand. Don't use it very much, but I do keep it just because this floor can be a little slippery for old dogs. So if I've got an old dog struggling to stand up for the entire bath, that's what I've got that for. You do definitely have to have this little suction cup right here. It's just an industrial suction cup. Depending on how many dogs you plan on doing at a time, that's why I have multiples. I actually have 3, but I rarely ever have to use that many at once. You're going to, of course, need your non-self-tightening groom loop because you don't want them choking themselves while you're trying to bathe them. That's not good. There's different kinds you can get. I do prefer these plastic-coated ones for the bath just because they're not going to hold all the extra shampoo that these cloth ones might. And we're going to get a hair drain, just goes over the drain like that. You do not want all that hair going down your drain at home. As the wife of a plumber, I'm telling you, you do not want all that hair going down your drain at home. You definitely do need shampoo and conditioner. I really am partial to Nature's Specialties. This is just the shampoo and conditioner I happen to have out right now. It's not any particular favorite of mine, but I do really enjoy both the smells of these. They're great. And this one's apple cider vinegar based, so it's supposed to be pretty good for like yeastiness and stuff like that. At least that's what I use it for. So, and we've got a good conditioner. Plum Silky is amazing. It smells so good. The only thing is you do want to dilute 32:1. That's a pretty strong conditioner, so that's why I've got these mixing bottles here. You're going to dilute as necessary. It's got the numbers up the side so you can dilute accordingly. I keep a couple of those on hand for shampoo and conditioner. This is not a must-have, but I do keep enzymatic toothpaste on hand if you decide you want to brush teeth. Rubber gloves I do recommend having because you don't want your skin to be torn up. Not everyone uses gloves while they're bathing dogs. Not everyone has the skin problems like I do. My skin's actually looking pretty good right now, so. But if you have skin issues, problems with dryness, I would definitely recommend that. These I just bought from local grocery store and I love the way they fit. They're a small pair, so they're really nice. I do also have this fan. I use this for cage drying if I have multiple dogs here at once and one either is nervous for the dryer or just for time's sake. I'll put one in a kennel and dry it with this fan. It's really, really handy to have, but definitely not something you have to have on hand. Just handy. So for the bath, that about covers it. So close yet so far. That's not a very good angle, is it? No. And I hear a child crying. So we're gonna have to take a break. Go see what's going on there. Hopefully this is helpful. Leave a like and comment, or if you have any questions, or just to support the channel. I appreciate that very much. And I'm really glad that you are here.